Oh, we actually went live. Good morning to the Saturday morning marketing smarties. There's a little bit of a confusion out there. We say Saturday morning marketing smarties, and everyone thinks, oh yeah, who's the green room Saturday morning marketing smarties today? Well, let's expand this out a little bit. If you're watching this show, you are a marketing smartie because the people not only watch the show, but they contribute from the audience. And that's why we are, as a congregation, the people watching, the people participating, whether you're on the show in the green room or not, we are all smarties because we're basically sharing information to learn more about the world we live in online. And I appreciate you people attending. We have a lot of regular followers that come around, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So it's all about education and learning more about the environment in which we dwell online. Hi, my name is Roland, and I'm the captain of this ship, at least in figurehead. I have a lot of fun running this show, and I have many good people contributing resources to make this show as valuable as it is. So I might be the tip of the spear, but there's a lot going on with the rest of the spear. So let's tell you who's showing up today to help us out with the show. And the first person I would like to introduce is my regular co-host, Molly Youngblood Geiger. Say hi, Molly, and explain who you are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly. The name of my agency is Design Review. I'm located in Jacksonville, Florida. I participate with Google on several different platforms. I'm a top contributor in the Hangouts forum, and also a Google Partners Ambassador, Google Trusted Verifier. The list goes on and on. Short version is I really like to participate and help people on Google and get questions answered. I'm really excited about today's subject, which is security. I think it's a subject that kind of gets glossed over, but in my humble opinion, I think it's a very important subject. We're doing everything possible to protect our devices.
Absolutely. And we're going to tell you a little bit about who our other guest is today, a special guest. But first of all, want to introduce Bill Graham as usual, as our people call him wingman and stuff, but I mean he's a very critical part of the presentation, and I rely on him greatly as far as including the audience in the event. So Bill, say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself. Sorry, I'm burping here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Graham. My website is billdoesbelize.com. I'm not a traditional marketer. I consider myself an infopreneur, but I follow the same principles as most of the people here of inbound marketing to spread my message. And I'm happy to be here to help the audience members to bring their comments into the stream. And I just want to mention that today we're having a few glitches with unified chat. So as you join us, please let us know that you're here and where you're coming from in the comments stream, because we'd like to know and acknowledge who's here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill. And moving on to our special guest for today, Karen V. Chin was not able to join us, and so we scheduled her out of the green room. However, because of the subject matter, it was placed upon me that we should really see if William Rock could join us because he's got a lot of stuff to offer. So he agreed. I twisted his pinky a little bit. He joined us today. So we're really, really happy to have William. William, say hi, please, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Smarties. Yeah, William Rock here, avid internet user, top contributor for Google Web Search. So when you're going to the Google Help forums, I answer most of all the crazy questions on Google Help, on business, to hacking, to all sorts of different things. Hacked websites, for example, just another one of those things that we're talking about today. Anyhow, WilliamRock.com is where you can find me. There's a bunch of things I've been adding to the comments thread over multiple spots, so you can find some of those links to some of the questions that Roland's asked today, and I just put those in. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to chatting on the Smarties. So thank you for having me on, Bill.
It's great having you here, William. And since he's posted on those links, we're just going to give everybody the rest of the day to explore the links, and we'll say goodbye for today. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're not going anywhere. There's a lot to discuss, and those links you can retrieve them later, or you can retrieve them now. But don't miss what we're going to deliver today, because we're going to ask some questions and we're going to answer some of them too. And some of the stuff you're going to be familiar with. You've heard this terminology going around the internet. It's happened to you probably. Everyone's been attacked by a virus, but you don't really know exactly what it is that attacked you or how. So we're going to cover the terminology today, some things, not everything, but some things, and you'll have a little bit better idea of what's around, what you have to look out for, and what to do if you get hacked or if you get invaded by a virus. And so a couple things to start us off. I'm going to do a couple of did you knows. And some of this, people are going to say, oh yeah, I knew that. But a lot of you are going to say, you're freaking kidding me. So here we go. Just a second. Let me get set. Okay, my first did you know for the day. Marketing Smarties, are you ready? Okay. Any click on your computer could download malware. In other words, if your computer's on and connected to the internet, and you turn your computer on and you're going, by the time you're actually online, any click, you could click something that you normally click on your computer and institute a malware infringement upon your computer. Now, let's just start with that. I bet Molly's got something to add to that. But if any click from the time you turn your computer on could install malware or infect your computer, what's there to protect you from that? I mean, what can we do?
Sure. So, I mean, there are programs that you can run in the background of your computer that will help protect it. But one tip that I like to share with people is that before you click a link, you can actually take your mouse and hover your mouse over the link, which is actually going to display the URL that the link is actually going to take you to. And my rule of thumb is if it doesn't match the URL that's being displayed, I don't click it, because it could potentially take me to an infected website or open up a malware that would run in the background. So that's my tip, is if you're about to click a link within an email or even on a website and you're not sure, take your mouse and hover it on that link and make sure that it matches the URL.
Exactly. So that's part of the precautionary measure that we can use when we're doing our general traversing on our computer. The other thing is, since you can be infected almost at any moment, the best thing to do is to have some kind of malware protection on your computer, and to scan regularly, and to keep that updated. So literally what we're saying is that you'll probably handpick something free or at a small cost and use it, and use a protection. But it's not just the protection of what you have on your computer. It's also where you go on your computer, and it's the places you interact with, and that is a free world out there. You never know when you're going to walk into a trap. And
can I add something to that?
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that Google has been doing, especially if you're using Google's browser and you're searching for something in particular, like we always do, there's a little message now that's been going on for some time. It says this site might be hacked. And it's in red. It's there for a reason. But when you're reading through the search results, you've clicked on something as your search in Google, and then all of a sudden you're going to see those messages, this site might be hacked. The other message that's going to come up when you open up that link is a red screen that says, this might contain malware, and it has a message there. Do you want to continue? That's another thing that can help protect you, making sure that you're using Chrome. I'm a fan of Chrome, Google Chrome, but it gives you that additional security built in already, and it's always updating. So I found that that's very helpful for even when my mom's surfing on her computer.
So that's very interesting to know, and I've seen that myself. So when you say it's in Chrome, what if you're using Firefox? Does Firefox have similar catch-alls or fail-safes instituted in their browsers?
They do have their fail-safes and other things that they've got versus the Internet Explorers or the Firefoxes or the Safari or even the Chrome. Each one of them has their own built-in pieces. But going back to your ideas, okay, do you have a software like ESET, antivirus malware that's kind of catching that prior? But going back to that search, Google's still going to actually give you that results, and it's going to still say that might be hacked, and it's still going to warn you with inside the message. But I think Chrome is always actively checking those before we get to those. That doesn't mean that one might slip through the crack. So
right,
having that antivirus and a malware software is going to help mitigate that as well, because it'll pop up and say it blocked you from going to that page.
Okay, so this is,
actually add to that Chrome has an extension called World of Trust, and what it does is it actually sends up a warning message. Like if it's an untrustworthy website, it'll actually throw up an error message.
got it. So let's see what the audience has to give us through Bill here. Michael Thomas, I think it was included in the Windows and Microsoft updates because my Adobe Flash Player hasn't worked whatever. And I reported it, and the new update includes a McAfee link. I shut that down and removed it. So this statement probably could use some exploration, but that's a really good point on many levels. First of all, the Adobe connection with the internet stuff, the Flash player is notorious for having loopholes and security holes. And so that's why one thing that the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac products don't support Flash, because of the very reason that Flash is an invasive doorway to your computers in a lot of places. So viruses and malware use Flash a lot. And so when you talk about using Flash, just be aware that malware is accompanying Flash often, or more prevalently than some things. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. But that's one thing. Also, I don't have a lot of faith in the Microsoft lineup, so I don't use Explorer and I don't use Edge. But they are decent products, but they're not the best. I found that Chrome is my preferential also. So if you're not using Chrome, just be aware that you may have a good browser, but you might have a little less protection or a little less opportunity to protect yourself if you're not using Chrome. So sounds like most of the people in the Smarties community probably use Chrome, but I do know some people use Firefox also. So here's another did you know, okay, and then we'll get on with the meat of our show. But did you know that a pop-up ad that you get in a browser, when you see a pop-up, you don't have to click on it, and you may already be infected with a malware invasion. Just by seeing the pop-up on your screen, you might already be infected. Now, people, you can comment on that if you want, but it's something to be aware of. If you see a pop-up come up, most pop-ups are fairly innocuous. I mean, they're like, hey, sign up for our subscription on our blog here, or do something. But some of them are invasive, and they're not meant to just be a sidecar just in case you want to sign up for something. It actually, once you see it, you're infected. So did you know that? And for me, that was just like that was a real eye-opener, because that means that if you're going to a website, you have to trust the website. You must trust the website, because people are buying ads and doing exchanges and stuff to create those pop-ups, and they're paying for exposure or whatever, but you don't always have the ability to screen who the people are getting in their advertising vein to know if they're a legitimate advertiser, a promoter, or an invasive malware possibility. So these are things to be aware of, and that's one of the reasons that I hate pop-ups. So yeah, I've talked about it a lot. but I mean, pop-ups are not something that I think are too friendly in the first place. But a lot of people say, yeah, we get good responses and stuff from pop-ups, but you have to beware of what they can deliver. So those are just a couple of things. Also, there's there is too much to cover, of course, but we have web browser invasions and we have email invasions. What other kinds of invasions should we be looking for? Because the computer, we do a lot of stuff on the computer. Most of it's in my browser or most of it's in my email. So we could talk about those two things. But what else? Well, what other places are we going to run into malware?
I can speak to that real quick, Roland. One of the things that people are not quite aware of, but when a website gets taken over and it's actually hacked, what it's doing is it's distributing malware. So half the time when they're hacked, that's where that important message comes from in Google that said this site might be hacked. But what it's doing, and it has the capability, just like those pop-ups, is it will inject something. What'll happen is you'll see your browser go to the website, but then it redirects to a couple other websites. You'll know that something's going a bit bonkers when that happens, because it happens in stages. You can see it happening. But if you close the browser, sometimes that stops it. That goes back to ESET and your malware software that you're using. Keeping that current with the current updates is very important. So when it says a message on your screen on your computer, please update your virus definitions, it really wants you to do that. You might not want to skip that step and go on and playing solitaire. You want to just go through the stage real quick, and you can play your cards in a minute.
Yeah, that's real good advice, William. Because one of the things you can do to notice this is, and here's a good example. You'll be on a page, and all of a sudden, bam! Your browser is telling you you have been infected by malware, and then they insist you need to click here to cure the problem. Well, it's not going to cure the problem. Let me tell you that in advance. If something's taking over your computer or your browser, it's already got its foot in the doorway in your computer and in your system. So what happens is you get this auto prompt, and then you try to click that browser away. It won't even let you close the browser. That's when you know it's invaded it's basically disabling you from doing what you normally or regularly would do. And when this happens, there are a couple things that you can try. And you can try going to your task manager and shutting down the browser in general. But that is not going to stop the thing because it's already on your computer. So chances are you want to go to your task manager, close the browser, and immediately go to your software and run a scan and clean what you can. Now, that doesn't mean that the security software that you have in your computer, the virus software, is going to fix the problem. But at least do the measures so you can possibly catch it before it invades further. Because as we're going to find out in the next set of information delivered, that some of these things just get on your computer and sit there. Some of these things get on your computer and actually crawl around and invade more of your computer and replicate themselves and duplicate and move about. So some things require you to take action, some do not. So we're going to get onto the definitions there. So is there anything else that anyone wanted to add to my rambling before we move on?
I just wanted to add that one of the ways that Google is trying to improve the security of a user's visit is requiring websites to use what we call a security cert. Tell if a website has a security certificate is instead of seeing the HTTP of a website URL, you'll actually see HTTPS. Now, a lot of the bigger companies like PayPal, most major banks, they've already shifted over to the security cert because, for all intents and purposes, there's sensitive information. This is actually a key point, though, in terms of people. Is Google is now requiring the security cert, and the reason they want you, and I'm talking across the board, business owners, I mean, just anybody in general as a website, they want to make sure that the users who land on your website secure experience, and that's why they have this requirement now.
Right. In case you did not exactly catch that, what Molly's talking about is a secure certificate. So a secure cert is a secure certificate that you can buy from your host, from your hosting company, and basically they install it on your hosting setup, and then they basically ensure that you have a secure transfer of information. And
it's not for the home user. It's basically for the business owner or person that owns a website, and that's where you'll see that little green, like Molly was saying, it's going to say HTTPS, but it'll be green in the top of it. So
right.
An identifier that's not yellow or red, where it doesn't have all those criteria.
Right. So specifically, a secure certificate is not for your home antivirus program and protecting your computer. It's if you have a website, and any website can have, as I understand it, a secure certificate. And if you're running a business, probably it's a good idea. And ultimately, it ain't that expensive. So you can get a secure certificate for $50, $60, $70 minimum. And then from there, you can pay a little bit more and get your whole hosting set up with all your websites done for, I don't know, like 150 or 200 bucks a year. And so it's a good idea no matter what. If you're really seriously in business, it's something that you ought to have. So the next phase of what I wanted to do was cover a few of the terms so that people understand what these things are, how to recognize it.
Can I add something before we go into that stage?
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I shared in the chat here was when we were talking about pop-ups and malware as well, there is a link that I put in there for the Google support, and it goes to the clean Chrome unwanted ads and pop-ups malware. It's for Windows only, so if you have a Macintosh like I do, I can't use this, but for a Windows environment, it's free, and it's basically just a tool that goes through and it helps again deviate away from you getting those malware injections. Another free tool out there that Google's given you to be able to help mitigate some of the stuff. That doesn't guarantee you're going to be, free of everything, but just taking those simple precautions as a home PC user or even a work PC user, you can do.
Yeah, thanks for that, William. And
sure.
knowing that you're on a Mac and you're helping out the people with a PC, that's really a very, very sharp point from you. Thank you very much. But while we're on the subject, because we're going to have maybe a third of the people out there, or who knows what the percentage is, of people who maybe are on a Mac. And one of the misnomers I think that I've come across is that people think that if you have a Mac, you can't get hacked, or you can't get invaded by a virus or a Trojan or a worm or whatever. And I think that that's untrue. And I'd like you to comment briefly if you're owning a Mac and you're running stuff on a Mac, what threats are you under by doing so?
Well, you're still under the same threats as a PC. I came from the PC environment and have chosen to go through and go to Mac. And for the last few years, I've been enjoying the Mac platform. But I had to cross-platform or learn both. But when I was on either one, it's the same threats. Everybody does think that Mac is, invincible. But as you can go and do a Google search pretty quickly and see how indefensible it is, it does do a great job on its updates, and it's always telling you, hey, there's a new update out there, it's free. Whereas, with Windows, I've got to always go and buy the newest version and upgrade. Sometimes people don't want to go or can't afford to go and upgrade that, and so they're really relying on, especially on the Windows box, making sure they're doing system updates. Either way, you could be on a Mac, you could be on a Chromebook, you can be on each one of those updates itself, except for Chromebook. Chromebook it's automatic. It just updates the operating system just like your phone, and it's got security patches in it as well. Great device, love it. But going back to the whole, Macintosh thing, you're doing the same thing. I'm still using programs like ESET, to control my viruses. I'm using Malwarebytes to do checking and scrubbing for anything that might come up in the browser that I definitely wouldn't know about. And it gets hard for us as top contributors in the forums, because we are going out and helping and clicking on people's websites and then reviewing them and doing the audits and stuff. So we're subjected to all of that every time we click on that link, just like you would be in your email, right? So you're in an email, you're reading through, and somebody wanted to actually get your attention because they just sent you a alarm time. Anyhow, no, I hope I answered that question. I just got distracted by my alarm.
I think the takeaway for that is that if you're an owner of a Mac, beware anyway, and don't think that you're invincible, because one of the things is that more viruses and more malware is designed for PCs just because there are more people on PC. That's one of the reasons that the image grew, that PCs were like more the subject of attack than not. Is simply a math game, and since more people use a PC, more hackers design for PC. But that does not mean that if you have a Mac that you can't have a virus or have a problem. And so just beware of that and protect yourself the same way.
I think to ask that a little bit as well, Roland, is go back to not just the updates to your machine, but your passwords to all of your accounts. Depending on which your account. We're right now on Google+, so we have a Google account. Hopefully, and in my message here down in my footer is, think about two-factor authentication. And I realize, a lot of people probably haven't done that, and what is that? But that's that other layer of protection. So now we've talked about protecting it through, an antivirus, a malware, a scanner, the browser, making sure if we see redirects, how do we mitigate that? But then what happens with your password? A lot of people, very basic password, but then if somebody can actually hack that, then now they've got your system. Say Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, for example. All these different things have got different logins. And if it's the same login, now all those other ones have a potential of getting hacked as well. So what the companies have done for you is given you an opportunity to get two-factor authentication. Meaning-wise, in order to log in, you have to actually receive a number on your phone or cell device, and then you can actually type that in and then get authenticated. And then there's another one which is with the Google Authenticator. And that's another one that's basically randomly generates it on your phone. And you can do the same thing for an Apple, an iPhone, or even an Nexus, Android operating system.
And I would add to that, William, that Google, in terms of Gmail users, they actually have two-step verification. Meaning, if you use Gmail, you can sign up for two-step verification. Meaning, Google actually call your phone with a backup password so you can log into your account, just to make sure you have that extra layer of security.
Yeah, this is all really fundamentally great information to be absorbing right now. If you're watching this show, these are things that you really should be paying attention to. And while we're on the subject of passwords, let's cover it briefly, because I know that a lot of people, when they sign up for something, they're casual about it, and they say, oh, I'll just use anything because who cares if they hack into the account. But if the account itself has information within the account that leads people to go deeper and deeper into who you are, you might be giving them the clues and stepping stones to find out the more critical stuff about you, and then they'll find you, connect you to a different account that has more information, and as stepping stones, they find out more and more and more about you until they have what they want, and they hack into your accounts, your personal stuff, and assume some control over your identity or your accounts and your influence. So for one thing, don't use default passwords. If the simple little default says password, don't leave it password, change it to something personal. So don't leave default passwords in there, and make them more specific and not something that's easy to remember, because if you can remember it, you're probably going to give it away. You're probably going to give it away. Molly, you had something to add to all this?
Yeah, there's one of my favorite shows is Big Bang Theory, and one of the episodes where he quotes, 1, 2, 3, 4 is not a secure password. So I think if we look at that.
Oh, there was a little freeze there. I think you're frozen.
Major points.
Sorry about that.
Pardon me?
We lost your last 5 seconds because you went through a freeze.
But I was just commenting about Big Bang Theory, 1, 2, 3, 4 is not a secure password. I think the takeaway from that is making sure that you do include capitals, lowercase, numbers, symbols, and use a variety of different within your password to make sure it is secure.
Sure, that sounds good. And anyway, pay more attention to your passwords. Copy them down someplace where you can access it when you need it. And so make it more complex so you don't have to think of it off the top of your head, but make it more practical so that people can't guess what they are.
And there's a piece that I put in the chat of one of the tools I like to use, and that's called LastPass.
Right.
It's $1 a month, really, so $12 a year, and that's the professional version. They also have a free version, but that goes back to my 2-factor authentication. When you're using what's called Google Authenticator, it just randomizes a number, and you basically what you end up doing is inside the software, you hold your phone up and you're actually scanning it like a barcode, and so you're scanning a QR code that's only visible by you on the computer and your phone. Therefore, you're actually then getting a direct connection, securing your passwords even further, because there's a lot of times where you're like, oh, I wrote down that password, but it doesn't work, and every time you got to reset your password. It kind of gets annoying. But then if you can go back and look at what those passwords are, not to say that everything's not crackable. If you go back and you start looking at news resources on any of the companies out there, you'll see LastPass was attacked, but at the same time as it was only attacked on a certain level of their servers, they didn't get the encrypted pieces. And even if they got the encrypted pieces, it's very difficult to decrypt it.
Right. Okay, I'm watching the time here, and I know that we're going to go over today. To the audience, I'm sorry that we're going to go over, but we are going to go over a little bit, but I'll try to keep it compacted as we can. Comment from the audience. Michael Thomas again. I recommend shutting down other tabs on other platforms while you're in a live presentation like this one. That's probably really good advice. And Dr. Margaret Aranda, how are you doing? So much great advice. Thank you all. And thank you for showing up. I'm glad to see you here. And that's good stuff. Let's see here. I'm manipulating so many things. We're actually having a pretty good presentation today, thanks to Bill making some adjustments. But we've had, there have been many Hangout problems this week, as Andrew Hatchett and his crew over at User to User Live Community has been stating and informing us, and a lot of things going on with the Hangout community. I can only hope that they're trying to fix these darn things. So hopefully that's the case. Okay, very briefly, I'm going to go over some of the terminology that you may or may not be familiar with, but there's so much we can't get through it all. But we do want to talk about what to do if you get hacked. But first, I want to cover a few terms. Do you know the difference between a virus, a worm, and a Trojan? And I throw that out there. I don't want to have a big discussion about it, but it looks like William's ready to go. But I think that people should know what the difference is between a virus, a worm, and a Trojan.
And I would add to that ransomware.
Well, ransomware is very specific, right?
It is in terms of the computer being taken over and the person not being able to access the computer, because it essentially shuts the computer down unless the person pays money. But what's unfortunate is the person who set up the ransomware. Even if the person pays the money, it doesn't undo the ransomware. Lose-lose situation for the user because they think, oh, well, usually it's something frightening like, oh, we've been monitoring your computer and see we've seen illegal activity on your computer, something to that effect. Usually it'll flash like an FBI symbol up or something, and it can be very, very intimidating. I have a quick story, just share it really quick. I had a friend who was attacked, and the ransomware program was so went in and I tried to delete the ransomware, it wouldn't let me, not even in safe mode. Go to a totally different computer and go download malware, well, different software program, or the ransomware. I went back, I tried to run the programs. It was so sophisticated, it would not let those malware programs run. So I had to go back to the other computer. I renamed the program kitty cat names because I like kitty cats. Put it on the infected computer, and it finally let me run. So that's how sophisticated ransomware programs can be, is if it detects that you're trying to remove the ransomware from the computer, it'll just shut it down. And that I got, which was called the white screen of death, which essentially your computer just got wiped out. Very, very important to make sure if you get attacked with ransomware, number one, don't pay it because it's not going to do anything to free up your computer. Number two, get access to another computer with the thumb drive, download. I recommend Malwarebytes, Tracer, and Microsoft Security Essentials. They're all free, their respective websites, and download them. Again, I would strongly recommend that you rename this program something different and run it on your computer, and that should get y'all cleaned up.
So I hope people just absorb what Molly's talking about. I'm a big Malwarebytes fan, and it's worked really, really well for me. So, but this renaming of the program is very essentially what can save you a lot of hassle, because as she says, this invasive software is so sophisticated that they know what we're thinking, they know what we're doing, and they have most of your moves covered before you even try. So let's see what the field has to say.
Yeah, I wanted to address this one from Michael Thomas. He said, Chet Dennis got hacked last year, and I was actually seeing tweets and posts I absolutely knew he had no part of. And I recommend if you or anyone else sees these kind of results online, please tell the hacked account owner of what you're witnessing. And that one is kind of personal to me. And I like to mention to people, like I was always one of those people who thought, hey, I'm a little guy on the internet. I only shared information about Belize, but it's not personal. I mean, people hack your accounts for many different reasons, and you know, it's not because of who you are. In my case, my account wasn't hacked; it was cloned, where they took my cover photo and downloaded it. They took my profile picture and downloaded it, and then went after signing up all of my friends on Facebook. So I was very fortunate that the friends on Facebook realized this and alerted me, and enough people had reported it that the thing was taken down within an hour. So it's very important for everybody to kind of be a community in this kind of thing. If you see that kind of thing happening to somebody else, certainly let them know as quickly as possible. And I know that's what was good for me, and how I was able to get through my little episode.
Absolutely. So it's really a team effort. We're working with people. We're online to communicate with people. We're online to connect, promote, and establish relationships. So might as well be kind to your friends, you know. Let's real quickly go over exactly what a virus, a worm, and a Trojan is real quick. The quick facts for a virus is that they attach themselves to an executable file, and it requires a human action to spread. In other words, you got to click the link. A virus is spread by sharing files and people clicking links. Now, a worm is different. A worm is It's a type of a virus, but the worm is capable of replicating itself. In other words, it regenerates. So when it comes in contact with somebody, the contact is not enough. It actually reaches out, grabs, and replicates the exact file in a new location, therefore breeding more and more and more. And that's when it doesn't require you to do anything, and the thing can get deeper and deeper into your computer. And a Trojan is similar to this, but a Trojan does not replicate itself, but it does cause a lot of damage, because what it does is it creates, it's very well known of creating a backdoor to your computer. In other words, it's basically creating a loophole in your security, and other things can find the loophole and get into your computer via the backdoor that the Trojan produces. So all these things are meant to do the same thing, but in different ways. All of them invade your computer somehow and cause some damage, because it gives other people the control over your resources and your computer. Now, the last thing to note is that there's this thing called a blended threat, and it's not just, it's potentially any combination of these three elements, or all three. It could be a virus and a Trojan and a worm all in the same delivery source. This is called a blended threat. So rather than try to identify these things, the best thing is to just get the software that's going to protect your computer, and be diligent about running this stuff always and consistently and regularly. So that's enough about that. We want to move on to the solution concept. So I know that William Rock has something that we're going to present, and I'm going to basically turn this over to him, unless anyone else has something critical that they would like to add that we've already covered. And we're going to turn this over to William and let him do a little presentation.
All right. Just a little bit in advance, my family just got home, so there might be some background noise.
So, no
I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Let's go to, there it is. Excellent. So now you should be able to see my screen.
Yep.
All right, so today basically it's going to be a small little presentation, nothing super crazy. There's a lot we talked about, a lot we covered, but at the same time, this is more geared for even some of the people that have websites as well. So when we move on to this one, let's go. I have a screen up here. Okay, there we go. So you should see basically when we were talking about the threat level, like for example, of when a website gets taken over, we were talking about a malware being injected on your home PC at one time. This is kind of a breakdown from security, and this is a recent one from it's Q1 2016, so pretty recent study. There's a couple other ones out there. If you go out to security.net, so the address is right down here in the right-hand corner. And what we're looking at is WordPress, Joomla, and Magento, Drupal. These are basically content management tools for website owners. Roland,
One second, William. We're not screen sharing that. So do you want to try the screen share again, or I can do it from my side?
Sure. Let me try it again here. For some reason, it was sharing for a second. There we go.
How about if I screen share and you tell me next?
There we go. Ready? You see it now?
Yeah, there. That's good. Oh,
Okay.
now it went away again. Let me white box you.
All right. Do you see it now?
Okay, we should be good to go.
All right. So you should be seeing what is most attacked, right?
Right.
Okay, perfect. So what I've got is a red box around WordPress right now. 78% of platforms are infected are basically WordPress from what security is actually pointing out for us. And the majority of websites out there today are WordPress. And so I've actually got WordPress sites that I've worked on as well. Joomla the second, and then Magento and Drupal. And these are just what the average website owner should possibly have in their piece. So let's do this.
Question
For you.
for you. Is this indicative of the number of websites there are in WordPress versus Joomla versus Magento?
It's an overall study across the platforms of all installations.
Yeah, but
across the world.
Is it indicative that that there is just simply more WordPress sites than Joomla?
There is, yeah, and that's, you know, they're saying that, but here's a different study. Here's the out of date. So basically, when you see the other one, which was, if we go back a slide, this was actually just infected websites across, and
right.
based off the platform. So the majority of that has been WordPress. Now there's tools like Security and you know, WordFence that are out there that do a good job on protecting those sites at second level. So we've been talking about the home user or the office user utilizing the virus, malware protection. Now this is a second level for those ones that may actually have a website that they manage in this group.
Got it.
And so when we look at the next slide where we're just at, this one's more of the out-of-date CMS, so content management systems. And when we look at this again, you know, WordPress does a better job than Joomla or Drupal or even Magento. Magento is an e-commerce website platform, does a great job, but you see a difference in both slides here. We're going back to how many are infected websites versus the actual out of date. So it kind of ties into a whole lot of things. So if we have a lot of out of date software, that means the website owner is not taking the time to go through and actually do the upgrade. Easy, it's just a little button that says upgrade WordPress, and it goes through and depends on different plugins, but it should have a backup software while it's doing that upgrade. So even with the types of malware, so when you were talking about, we were talking about backdoors a little bit ago, and with that, you see how we got, here's the phishing attacks, here's all the way back down to the very bottom, 68% on this chart is actually referencing backdoors and malware or SEO spam or hack tools. When you start seeing phishing or redirect, it's kind of little, but that doesn't mean that the backdoor might not redirect. So it all depends on, you know, what that website that got hacked is actually doing in control of that hacker. And they're actually modified the code. They're doing something by injecting something to, just like you mentioned, the pop-ups in your browser.
Right.
That's something that a hack bot would do, and pop up those things for malicious malware, for example. So maybe a pop-up brings up, and now you're injected because you can't stop that pop-up. You know, being prepared is a big thing. You know, what I always talk about with my clients is making sure we have a constant backup, you know, just in case we did get taken over. That way, I'm not just fixing the problem. Sometimes that's an easy way to do it with security or other tools, but sometimes there's always that back door. You know, if we look back at that last chart, at the very bottom, we've got 60% of everything's malware. Back doors are 68%. So just imagine your website gets taken over, but that doesn't, it may actually have been unhacked by software companies, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something else in just waiting to be popped out. But you won't know that. So that's why I always kind of say, you know, have a plan, be prepared. If you can actually make sure that you do have, there's tools like in WordPress or Joomla or Drupal that you can actually back up the whole database, as well as the files associated, all the images, and then have it on offsite backup. So I normally put it on the storage drive, or even just a external hard drive works perfect. Now, Roland, we also talked about the hacked message, the message that Google gives us when there's kind of like an indicator. So when we're searching the internet for something, say red apples, and I'm looking for that, but then all of a sudden redapples.com is actually possibly hacked. Here's the example.com that shows that message right below. It says this site might be hacked. So as a user, a visitor to any one of the websites, be suspicious on those things. Molly mentioned hovering over a link in your email and getting that true URL, making sure that you're not being redirected through that. But at the same time, when you see this message, I wouldn't recommend clicking on it. The next message you'll normally see in the browser that we talked about earlier in the show is this red message. The site ahead contains malware. It'll tell you the site name. Might attempt to install dangerous programs on your computer. So Google's already doing this for you. So it's already found this. It's giving you another warning just before you go. You have to actually go to details to go through to get to that website, because once you hit the details at the bottom here, it'll actually let you go through knowing that it might be suspicious. Here's basically the questions, things to consider. We talked about, do we have a backup to your website? Very important. Is your website software up to date? So when we went back to those beginning slides, if you are running a WordPress site for your company, or even your blog, a lot of us probably in this group has possibly a blog running, and so make sure that you have that software up to date. And then you're running security tools that we talked about before. So as you're touching the website as a admin, you have certain permissions to that website that you don't want that malware or virus or Trojan to take over to your login. Again, having a plan. Here's a couple of tools, and what we should probably do is put a link to the slide deck, Roland, so that people can actually get to this presentation that I shared in the side notes here. But these resources right here is, if you do have a website, you're going to want to go through some of the tools, and these are free. So you've got PC Risk. It's one of my favorite tools so far. It's been able to find a lot of different bugs that a lot of other sites scanners haven't been able to do. When you end up going to these, it's a matter of, you're just going to type in your website address and then hit scan. And again, it's free. So basically, it's going to run through and look for certain aspects of file signatures and so on, and come back with a report. Here's another one with Qualys is basically a free scan for the first time on your website, which gives a really, really in-depth report, so that you can take to your webmaster, whoever's making sure that this is actually secure, and say, here's all the problems that it found. Can we fix those? So going back to the whole security, making sure that everything is kind of like, we would do something like that for our home. We'd use like AT for our home, security maybe. Same thing with on our website. We have a blog out there. We want to make sure that it's protected. And again, these are free. So even the CAFE site audit, you can go out and do that one. Here's the link for Site Advisor. And then Redleg, this is a file viewer that I have really grown attached to for the last couple of years. One of the top contributors in the Google Webmaster Forums. Actually, I don't know if he just made this because so many people asked that question, about my site's hacked, that he said, hey, just put it in here and it's going to tell you all the answers, what it's been hacked with and how to start. It doesn't give you the tips on yet how to get rid of that, but at least it identifies where that hack is. Might be a malicious redirect that happens to be injected into your HTML source code. So those will all be available for you guys in the actual slide deck presentation. The other thing we've been talking about in the beginning is two-factor authentication. I press that a lot because it's very important that you have your phone connected with your account. Again, because if you don't take that step, even with your Facebook or your Twitter, in this case I'm talking about Google two-factor authentication, but every other tool has that means. So you can actually go to multiple layers. Facebook has got another tool that you can install the application on your phone and just say yes or no, this computer is trusted or not trusted. Authenticator is also a Google product, so you can use that on both the iPhone and the Android operating system phones. Very easy. But go through, if you go back up into, if you're in Google especially, go up to your icon up in the top right-hand corner, go down to your settings, and then look at your user settings, your password protection settings, and you'll be able to get all the questions answered with inside there. It walks you through it pretty much. When I left this one kind of the end, this is basically a site. You can see, have I been PWNED? And this is a fun one because you can type your email address or your username that you've used across the internet for as many years as you've been on the internet, and see if there's actually a positive hit on your profile, and it'll tell you if you've been part of a hack. So if your information is spread somewhere on the internet, it can find that for you.
Well, what does PWNED stand for?
I think it's just password. owned pretty much, because they own your password at that point. 'Cause
Oh,
what
I
it is,
see.
when a website's hacked, a lot of times the usernames and passwords will be just shared out there on a database. And so other hackers can just go and use that. So when you type your username or your email into this tool, it'll actually spit out if you have a green bar or a red bar. Red bar is going to tell you you've got a couple different places. You might want to actually change your username and password on in case you haven't done that. Some of the hacks are old, but if you end up going into the actual website itself, let's see if I can escape out of this one real quick, and I'll show you the website. Let's see. Well, I don't have it right up on hand, but that's pretty much all the slides I really had in there. Just basic stuff. Go back to your two-factor authentication, go back to your antivirus, go back to your malware scans. Make sure when that message comes up with maybe it's an updated virus definitions, make sure you just go ahead and walk through those steps before you end up going into the task you're going to go to. If it's going to be playing a game or going on a chat or something like that, but just go through the steps, and then it'll tell you if you need reboot and stuff like that.
Very cool. Very cool. So just wanted to regroup here and mention that out in the audience, Roland Fulsang is there, and also Barbara Quick is there, joining the people who are watching the show and commenting. So thank you very much for showing up, and I'm happy to see you there and appreciate that. Wow, you actually got through that pretty effectively, William.
Thank you.
And it was very, very good. And if you rewatch this show, every time you do, you're going to find something else out that you missed. So replay is welcome, and share it with your friends and so forth. Someone out there, Michael Thomas, I don't trust or recommend anything to do with McAfee and Norton tools, sites or tools.
I brought that one up because I think, and I'm one of those people who's not as technically inclined as maybe this presentation is going. I mean, I've always trusted McAfee for my site, and I have a firewall. But is that sufficient protection, I guess, is what I want to ask today. And the same thing with my website. I mean, I use plugins on my website to protect it. I don't have an HTTP or I don't have the S on my website yet. So am I, as just regular users, are we adequately protected with McAfee and Norton sites, or is there something that we should be looking at? I mean, we can't all afford expensive sites to look after this stuff. So I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that, William.
It's a good question. Want to address that?
Great question. I think that Norton, McAfee, they've had their history. I haven't used them for a long time. In my presentation, I mentioned the scanning tool for McAfee, but at the same time, as you're putting everything in place that you need to have done for the free tools. I mean, like I don't know what website operating or CMS you're using. It might be WordPress. If so, there's some really cool, great tools out there for that. Security is one of my favorites, but it costs money. That's the hard part, is not everybody has that much money to dump in their site. But these free tools are out there. So I mentioned in the chat a while back here, and I don't use WordPress very often. Most of what I'm actually doing is going to be a Joomla backends. So,
well, are the plugins that we download on those sites sufficient? Like, I use WordPress Bruiser. I've just started using it recently because I used to get a lot of bot traffic on my site, and since I switched to that particular plugin, it's been zero. So, I mean, obviously, it's been effective for me, but should I be confident in that, or am I just lucky?
Well, here's the thing I would challenge you with, and going out to some of the tools I mentioned, just to do a random scan. Now, a lot of times, the internal tools may not show you what you might be using. For example, like RS Firewall in Joomla would be sufficient to some of those other scanning tools, and sometimes things get past that. So How do we know that that got passed, and how do we know that we're not actually affected or hacked? One, if you're registered with Google Webmaster Tools, you'll actually have, so you've got basically it's going to tell you pretty quick within 24 hours, not even 24 hours now. It's gotten that fast to be able to detect if you were hacked, and then it tells you in your Webmaster Tools or Search Console that it found something, and you can go and fix that. So it's giving you a message, it's giving you some identifying information, but then looking where I want you to challenge yourself is to go out and scan with those tools, run a security site audit with that slide deck that I had in there. Just put your URL on, it'll go through and it'll find things. It'll even find things down to what version of WordPress you're running, as well as additional plugins like the SEO all-in-one plugin that there's tons of different vulnerabilities for something like that. If you're not up to date on that tool, then that's another opportunity where they can have fun with you. Sometimes you're not going to get defaced. You're not going to know that that actually happened on your website until it actually happens. But being proactive on some of the tools out there will definitely help you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that answer. That's great.
I think that's the key takeaway here is be proactive. I mean, if you take the time to protect your passwords, to protect your website, protect your email, take the time to invest in these free tools that are offered. That's the key takeaway for me, is to be proactive. Prevent it from happening. Don't, instead of reacting to it happening, prevent it from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the tool I was trying to find, Bill, is WordFence. I don't know if you've got WordFence, WordPress on there, but WordFence on the free version has done a fantastic job on some of the other sites that I manage. But I go to
WordFence is the one I had originally, and it did identify a number of bots, but it didn't allow them in. It had just alerted me that they had tried and were refused entry.
Yes.
So, but since I've changed to a Bruiser, I noticed that I don't get any of those notifications. So maybe I'm just not getting notified of potential hacks.
Well, I've never used Bruiser, so I don't know. I was getting ready to do a Google search on that, so maybe we can. I'll definitely study up on that one later. A lot of WordPress, I've stayed away from it a long time ago. Now that they have got a better grasp on things, we've seen a reduction, especially the security modules that they've already put in the last patches of the WordPress operating. But still, I go back to the third-party scanning and maybe even set it in your calendar that you take all 3 or 4 of these tools and just run a quick scan once a month, and just have it so it reminds you in your calendar that, hey, by the way, go run these tools. It takes you 5 minutes to do or 10 minutes to do, but now you reassured yourself that, okay, I don't have anything yet. Google Webmaster Tools or Search Console hasn't alerted me yet. My other tools inside haven't alerted me yet. But you're proactively doing, like Molly said, proactively keeping track of your usernames and passwords. Who's actually in charge of having access to either, are they a writer? Do they just need manager role, or do they need admin role?
Right.
Those type of things. Because the other big thing is some of these hackers would like to actually come in and change and create themselves a profile, then automatically change it to admin, and now they own the system.
Sure.
And that's not a person doing that to you. So they're not picking you out of the blue. The robot is scrubbing the net, looking for those little tiny holes.
Yeah. So again, that's a good point you bring up. It's very important to make sure you have all of those notifications activated, because I know my site notifies me of all of that stuff, but I can shut it off, and I don't know why you would, but maybe you might not turn it on if you didn't know you had to. So that's a good point, to be proactive and
listening to your notifications too, because we get so busy, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll go back to those. And what I found, even with Google Inbox, I've been switching from Gmail to Inbox, and it's been notifying. I can sit there and go, remind me in 7 days, or remind me in 2 days. So I know I read that, but instead of actually making myself think about going back and reading that, I've set a reminder in my calendar too to come back tomorrow or the next day. And it just pops right back up, just like it was an email again. And now I can address that, or I can pause it again for another hour or a couple hours, or I'll just go over and put it in my calendar to
Right.
have that. Great points.
So the massive takeaway on this is that if you're going to play online, whether you have a business or whether you're just going to be online to enjoy yourself, you have to be proactive and protect your stuff. And the people, they say, well, why does somebody want to hack me? Well, basically, you got to understand it's nothing personal. They're out there. They built these machines that hack everybody that they can, because it's a numbers game, and they're going to hack somebody that's going to make a difference because they get the right information that allows them to be more influential in their exploits, download account information, rip you off directly from your bank, and any number of things. But it's nothing personal to the hacker. They just build a machine that hacks everybody. So if you get hacked, don't take it personally. Don't think, why would they target me? It's just that you're just another number. But so
I
we
actually added to that the internet outage that happened about a week ago. I mean, that right there, I mean, when hackers get to the point where they can just take the net down, yeah, that's an issue. So that's how big internet security is. In fact, the national government said that there are more hackers out there than there are professionals trying to prevent the hackers. They can't find enough people fast enough to hire them to protect, the government and other individuals. So, I mean, when we're aware of that, to me, that's kind of scary to think that this is actually going on. And I like to tell people, the way I look at the internet is like this. It's like the days of the pirates. You're out there in the open seas and anything goes. So that's why it's really important to make sure, be proactive, update your passwords, protect them, back up your website files. I cannot emphasize how important it is to back up your files, and make sure that you are up to date on all your updates for your software, your malware protection softwares. It's really all about prevention. If you take the extra time, like William said, set yourself a reminder. That's a great tip. To set yourself a reminder once a month, once a week. Hey, I need to update my passwords. I need to update my software. I need to back up my files. That's a great piece of advice from him.
Yeah, and back to your piece, basically with the password, are they simple? Are you actually, are you changing them? Are you being proactive and actually modifying? How long? The question that when I'm in a Chamber of Commerce meeting, I always like to joke, like, everybody in the room, when was the last time you guys changed your password? And raise a hand last week. None of them. How about last month? None of them. And then last year. Oh, we get a couple hands. And that's
wow.
scary. And here's another weird story. I was watching a professor on a Hangout, and he wasn't a professor. He was actually in politics. So we'll just pull that aside. He had a whiteboard, and he was telling everybody, here's my password for my Twitter account, right? So now he's recorded on the Hangout, so YouTube. Here's his password on the whiteboard, and it was for the class, not for the actual video. So when you're actually doing stuff like teaching at class, also think about what is in your environment. Are you giving your password away? Now, if they would have also used two-factor authentication, they'd log into Twitter and they'd have to get a telephone number and get the code.
Right.
But but most of those people, a lot of people, I'm sure, have not heard of two-factor authentication. So that's why I'm pitching it so many times, because realistically, you start with protecting yourself, and then you can protect everything else.
Say, Bill, was there something that you wanted us to display there? I saw you had something that you were showing on the comment stream, but we took so long to get back to you. I think that we missed it. So, Bill, was there something from the comments? Let's see what that is. Michael Thomas. All these platforms and search engines wanting us to sync our cell phones with our iOS. Sometimes our advertising efforts to hack our settings and ownership and authenticity, and you have to be really careful and thorough with your accessibilities and engaging. Absolutely, that really sums up a lot of what we're talking about today, that we have to be aware of what's going on with that. and basically not allow these things to happen as much as possible. But
And I thought that one was interesting because I just had an experience with that, and I synced my phone to my computer so that, you know, in the evening when I'm watching TV, if something comes in on my computer, it notifies me. I don't have to be sitting in front of my computer. But last month I lost my phone.
oh,
And so that meant whoever picked up my phone had direct access to my Google account, had direct access to my Facebook accounts, because I didn't password protect them, because I didn't really think about losing my phone, and it was always just kept at home with me. So it's really important to think about all of that stuff. I mean, I went in right away and changed my passwords, but you know, the damage can be done pretty quickly.
So once you change the password, it basically automatically goes, especially with Google. I don't know about the Facebook and Twitter, but when you do actually change your password online, once you've noticed your phone is missing and you can't figure out where it's at, basically it automatically shuts that off. So even when they log into your phone that they found, they still can't get past that because you've already changed it online.
Right.
Well, my best advice for that is just don't lose your phone.
Oh, I have a tip. Okay, so if you lose your phone, with Google, all you have to do is find another device. It could be somebody else's phone or computer or laptop. Just type "find my phone," and as long as the phone is on, Google will actually detect. It will start ringing the phone, and you have the ability to find your phone. Now, in Bill's case, I think he may have lost it somewhere outside his house. But I just wanted to quickly share that tip that if you do lose your phone, it's still on. You can go to Google and log into your account, type "find my phone," and it will start ringing the phone so that you can find it.
Yeah, and if you do that in Maps as well now, you can actually, or just in the search browser, you just say "find my phone," and it'll bring up a Google map, and it'll tell you exactly where that phone is too. So it might actually be in the shopping parking lot where you just got finished doing your grocery shopping. So you never know where, and then you can also track it if it's moving.
Right.
So
I wanted to add another piece. There was a question down here from Michael about, or not a question, but he made a point about along with privacy settings, and I was going to put a link in the chat just now on what Google has to say about that. There's a link here now. It's basically take control of your privacy settings, and you can also do a lot with inside your account, just of what you want to share to people and what you don't want to share with people.
So we're moving in the overtime realm. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that this is a business for hackers. This is their business, and they take it seriously, and they're good at what they do. They've even got this thing that they designed called exploit kits. And what is an exploit kit? Well, it's basically a design pattern of several different loopholes and connections that they actually avail to other hackers and sell these packages to them so that they can just like plug and play. So you go to a developer that has an exploit kit and buy this thing from them, and it turns you into an immediate hacker. I mean, you could be a hacker by investing a few bucks, basically. And then once they have these packages, the packages are all over the internet, and everybody's using them. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are using them, and it's so easy to get into the business of hacking. And nowadays it's prolific. So not only do we have to watch out for the people who are intentionally doing this because they know what they're doing, but people who don't know what they're doing are also hacking, because they're building machines now that they sell so that other people can do the same thing that the professional programmer hacker can do. And so the business is out there. I mean, we have a lot to pay attention to. So all we can do is the best we can do. But if you're doing nothing, that's not enough. So that basically wraps up most of what we wanted to deliver today. I wanted to add the last things that I'm thinking of. You want to watch out for what you think are real messages to you that are not. There's a lot of fake impersonators of resources, people trying to make you believe that they're Microsoft or some other company, but they're not. So make sure you look at logos, make sure you look at authentication to see what what the people are, so that they're not impersonating somebody that you should be in contact with. Maybe they're an impersonator. They're fake invoice people that try to send you a bill for something that you don't even have an account with them. But they're sending you an account and say you got to pay this soon. Don't do that. Look out for people in email and in social media that they do this thing called where is it? Oh yeah, that's right, the Nigerian prince scam. It's like basically impersonating somebody and letting you know that they're kind of in trouble and they need help, and gee, the only way they can do it is through you. Now don't believe it. Don't believe the stories out there. There are a multitude of versions of all these things that we're talking about. So if anything that you are experiencing is similar to these, then you have to question whether they're legitimate. And one of the things in social media is building up a relationship so that people believe or begin to believe that you're a real person, that you really care, and so forth. And all of a sudden you realize that this person is asking me for money. They're probably not even who they are portraying online. So the point of what I'm making is that people want to deceive you. They want to deceive you for influence, for money, or for whatever. And we just have to be careful about what we believe. So I think that pretty much wraps up my pitch on on security online. Does anyone want to wrap up any final statements before we close the day?
I would just like to thank William. It was a great presentation today and a lot of valuable information. I think people in the audience have been kind of quiet. They've been commenting amongst themselves, but I think there's a lot to digest here. And thank you very much, William and Molly.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys for having me on the show today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to mention was that if anyone that sees the show wants to contact anybody in the green room and ask them any questions, just do it. Just do it. Contact us and ask. And we'll guide you as best we can to the best resources to make your day a little bit better. So that's me wrapping up the show for Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Was there something you wanted to add, Molly?
Just like I said earlier, be proactive. Take the steps to protect yourself online. The internet, it's fun. We all have fun searching and all that good stuff, but we need to protect ourselves. So I think if you take away some of the key points, some of the advice that was shared during the hangout, that's definitely a step in the right direction. Right on.
And since I'm the WordPress guy and I like the stuff there, my two recommendations are Malwarebytes and WordFence. Those are the two that were mentioned today, and I stick with those and do a pretty good job with it. So that's it. We're going to sign off, and thank you very much for watching the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Good day, everybody.